he took off I'm guessing he got about halfway to where he was going and decided maybe it wasn't such a bright idea because it's so cold out, and then he came back. And then RXI and B9G.
Yeah, roger on that, Neil. Yeah, I'm keeping a close eye on the clock here because I don't want to interfere with the newcomers net yet. So I'm just kind of making a quick check-in, seeing how things are going and see what's going around. Going from there. Back to you, N1RXR.
N1RXR and B9D. Okay, Eric, we'll be standing by as well for the net. And, thanks for getting back to me there. Hope you have a good evening, and I'm really looking forward to the net as well. We'll talk to you a little bit. N1RXR and B9D.
Roger on that. This is N1RXR. Clear the frequency.
KC1JMH Link. This is KJ6JBH. Newcomers Roundtable Net will begin in about 1 minute. CQ. This is KJ6JBH with the Newcomers Roundtable Net. My name is Paul, and I'll be the net controller for tonight. This is a directed net, so if you'd like, need to break in, you wish to join, please throw out your call sign and then wait to be recognized. Bear in mind, after call is complete, please allow at least a second or so in between people speaking to allow any emergency or high priority traffic to break in, or anybody to break in for that matter if they so choose. Speaking of which, is there any emergency or high priority traffic at this time? If so, please come now. Alright, didn't hear anything, so I'll take it to believe that there's no emergency or high priority traffic at this time. Therefore, if anyone wishes to join the Newcomers Roundtable Net this evening, and by anyone I mean anyone licensed to operate on this frequency at this time. If you'd like to join this evening, please select your call sign. Please do so phonetically. Also give me your name and location, and then wait to be recognized. So if you'd like to join the Newcomers Roundtable Net this evening, please come now.
XR in New Gloucester, Maine.
This is KC1.
Kilo Charlie 1, Hotel Juliet, November, Wayland and Wyndham.
This is Kilo Charlie 1, Bravo, November, Yankee, KC1, BNY, Harvard, and Auburn.
This is Whiskey 1, Tango, Golf, Tim in Sanford.
KC1 AOT, Ron in Denmark.
November, Kilo 1, India, Roger in Falmouth.
Kilo Charlie 1, Hotel Mike Lima, Greg in Portland.
KC1 MRQ, Cole and Gorham.
KC1, NZD, Rick on Peaks Island.
Alpha Charlie 1, Kilo Oscar, Matt in Wyndham.
Hold on a second. Matt, Alpha Charlie 1 Kilo, I didn't quite catch the other last two. that back out again.
Yep, alternating current, 1 knockout, AC1 KO.
Roger, roger, got it. Thanks. Next.
November Golf 1 Tango Bill and Wyndham, just listening.
Kilo Charlie 1, Mike Sierra Romeo, Nick and Gorham.
November Bravo 9 Delta, Maine Pass.
Alright, this is KJ6JBH with the Newcomers Roundtable Net. We had a pretty good run. Let's see here. We had, I think we had double, tripling, quadruple in there going on way at the beginning. I think everybody keyed up at the same time or started talking at the same time. So basically the first part of that was just a big, then I heard, XR. So it's like, then I heard Eric. So it's like, okay. So obviously we had a whole lot of people jumping at the same time. So, and then when Miriam got on there right after that, there was something else as well. So I'm thinking I'm missing some people at the beginning. But either way, I'm going to go down the list. And if you're not there, you were probably in that very beginning where there was a whole lot of So anyway, top of the list, the only one I was able to pick out of the pile up was Eric, N1 RXR. Then after that, Miriam won out, KC1 AIH. Then it was, then things started relaxing a little bit, and we got KC1 HJN Whalen. Then KC1 BNY Hubbard. W1 Tango Golf Tim. Then KC1 AOT Ron, and NK1I Roger. KC1 HML Greg. KC1 MSQ Cole. KC1 November Zulu Delta Rick. Alpha Charlie 1 Kilo Oscar Matt. November Golf 1 Tango Bill in Wyndham listening. Then Kilo Charlie 1 Mike Sierra Romeo Nick. Then November Bravo 9 Delta Neil. Did I miss anyone?
KC1JMH Link.
KL6 KPW, Valley, listening.
Whiskey 2, Victor Alpha November W2DAN, just listening.
Kilo Charlie 1, Oscar India Zulu, Kevin and Standish, just listening.
All right, we've got a few more here. Let's see here. Where did we leave off? I think we left off with November Bravo 9 Delta. Then after that, I've got Kilo Mike 6, Kilo Papa Whiskey Allen, which is listening tonight. We have Whiskey 2, Victor Alpha November listening. I didn't catch your name, but I can look it up later. But if you can throw it out when I'm done here, that'd be great. Then we have Kevin out in Standish listening. Kilo Charlie 1, Offer Oscar India Zulu. That's Kilo Charlie 1, Oscar India Zulu. This is KJ6JBH, currently taking check-ins for the Newcomers Roundtable Net. If anybody else wishes to check in, please do so now. This is Kilo Charlie 1 Hotel Bravo Lima, Ben in Buxton. All right, we'll call it there. Thanks, Ben, for jumping in. That was Kilo Charlie 1 Hotel Bravo Lima. This is Paul, KJ6JBH, with the Newcomers Roundtable Net. Kind of struggling to come up with some sort of topic here. I've been trying to do a bit of cleanup here today, and been kind of hobbling around. And for some reason, my right knee is giving me grief. So it's like, good golly, Miss Molly, we don't seem to get a whole lot better as we get older. But kind of going through a lot of old QST magazines and cutting out the articles I want to save, and trying to reduce the bulk is that's the key. Trying to reduce the bulk. But anyway, I kind of thought of a topic. It's like, yeah, it's kind of an interesting topic. It was interesting to me. And you know what? I better do a reset here before I start yakking much. Reset. All right. So, for a while, it's like, hey, what's the whole idea behind the Radio Shack? We call it the Shack. I'm gonna go to the Shack, and it's like, this radio, not a basketball game. But anyway, so it's like, what's the deal with the Shack? So I decided, what is Radio Shack? And of course, I got a couple different results. But the first one I thought was kind of interesting. This is during radio's early days, equipment was experimental and often home built. The first radio transmitters used a loud spark gap to generate radio waves, and so were often housed in a separate outbuilding or shed. When radio was first adopted by the U.S. Navy, a small wooden structure placed on the deck of the ship to house the ship's radio equipment also became known as the Radio Shack. It says, today our Radio Shack can be anywhere that radio equipment is housed and operated, usually a room such as with amateur radio stations. But for some, the entire shack may consist of a handheld. But anyway, I just kind of thought it was interesting. Basically the original radio equipment was so loud that you just didn't want it in the house. And matter of fact, I find that whenever I kick off an HF receiver, with the squeaking and the hissing and all the stuff going on in the HF world, my wife does not want to hear that in the house, so I have to relegate myself upstairs and to a more quiet environment. Not necessarily more quiet for me, but more quiet for my wife. But that also kind of took me down. The second result on that was Radio Shack. The store. And I better do a reset quick. And they was talking about Radio Shack, and it was talked about Radio Shack was started, I believe it was 1921 or 23, one or the other, by two brothers. And basically they enjoyed radio, and they were supplying parts for basically radio amateurs and for ship-borne radio setups. So they were providing basically radio parts. And of course the business grew. And it grew and grew, and they started taking on a lot of products. And I guess in 63 or so, it was sold to Tandy Corporation, and they took it off in a different direction. And unfortunately, Radio Shack went off in a lot of different directions. And here it talked about talked about Radio Shack was another tale unable of a business to adapt to the times. This is Radio Shack could have been Best Buy, it could have been Amazon, it could have been Dell, but the paths that Radio Shack could have taken were numerous. But instead of choosing one, they chose them all. basically, they walked away from being the hobbyist dream. Radio Shack tried many paths, but going in all directions without a full commitment was not enough. Particularly when the core brand was not sustained. Radio Shack has branded itself well, but it led itself too far from its strengths. We better do a reset one more time. So, yeah, there's probably not to be a whole lot to be said about the topic of our Radio Shack, but so tonight we're just going to kind of throw it out there. You can kind of reminisce a little bit. You can talk about your feelings on the Shack, your Radio Shack. You can talk about the Radio Shack, the store. Basically, what lessons, as far as the store goes, what lessons can we learn from that? Radio Shack suffered from a lack of focus, especially, later on. They started grasping all sorts of things. As ham operators, we potentially could spend an awful lot of time, certainly a lot of money, on our hobby. And, part of my thought on that was, what do we want to do with our hobby? Each one of us is probably going to be a little different. And if you want to speak on that, that'd be great. But what do you want to do in your hobby? And is what you're doing right now going to fulfill that? Some people want to do community service. Some people want to do EMCOM. Some people get into ham radio for prepping. Some people get into ham radio because they just kind of want to shoot the breeze and be able to talk to people. Some people get into ham radio because they want to meet different people or talk to different people all over the world. And some people just want to do something different. So kind of talk about why you got into ham radio and maybe, kind of take a look at what you're doing and is what you're doing going to get where you want to be or why you got into ham radio and is it fulfilling your goals. So this is KJ6JBH. We'll take it up to the top of the list, up to N1RXR Eric for your thoughts. How to you, Eric?
N1RXR, yeah, Paul. Basically, I got into ham radio due to the fact that I like communicating, but I also like the science behind it as well. The science keeps me occupied, keeps my mind running straight, and it also gives me the opportunity to explore and experience new ways and different modes and different aspects of things on top of constructing the radio site and operations that you want. Me, I prefer to be on the high end of the scale with, fine products, new equipment, stuff like that. I tend to go the extra mile, spending a little extra cash to make sure I get the good quality radio. Quality is my profession, and rules regulations also is second, and then science and experiments are third. But they're all in there, which all makes it one big part of interest of mine, and it goes from there. Also, weather's in there too, so that's number 4. So, back to that, N1RXR.
All right. It sounds like you certainly have a fairly wide breadth of what you're shooting for. Well, I guess your goals are much more expensive than mine. But yep. If that's what you want, you go for it, mister. Let's take it out to Miriam. KC1AIH. What are your thoughts?
Oh, KC1AIH. Well, I got into ham radio because I'm interested in communicating and gathering information, and I like to fiddle and poop around with things, and I like challenges. And far as the Radio Shack situation is concerned, the store, I can remember when Tandy Leather bought out Radio Shack. The problem is when you have a corporation like that and you sell stock, it's public. And if the corporation is very profitable and has lots of cash in its account, some bigger corporation is going to cast their eye on it and look at a takeover. Because they will then strip it down for the assets that they want, scrap everything else, and on the way they go. Now you've got from the past, Sears and Roebuck, Montgomery Ward, or Monkey Ward as it's called sometimes, W.T. Grant, Kresge's, a lot of these old stores, J.C. Penney's in the same boat, they spread themselves out so thinly. Sears and Roebuck got into insurance. They were even selling cars. Then they got into real estate, Caldwell Banker. And what they were doing is making sure that there was no cash in their accounts for somebody else to come and take them over. So in effect, it was like a poison pill. And eventually, it's like any empire, you get to the edge where it no longer will sustain itself and it starts to crack at the edges. And pretty soon somebody else who's a little bit bigger and a little bit better or a little faster or a little more greedy will come along and break up your empire and off you go. Well, that's what happened with Tandy. And Tandy had no one at the tiller. They were not being steered anywhere in one particular area. And their strongest point, which was Radio Shack store as we knew it back in the day, I'm going to reset, didn't last. They also bought out Lafayette Radio, and then there was another one that, which the name I'm afraid escapes me at the moment, but they had a catalog about 2 inches thick, and you could buy anything to build anything in the radio and electronic field. And Tandy snapped them all up. If they didn't like the fact that they had a competitor, they bought the competitor. And then pretty soon they stripped it down to selling cell phones, and that was then taken over by a cell phone company. And I guess there's 2 stores left in the state of Maine that are franchised to Tandy, Radio Shack, and I think they still have some of their products on their shelves, but as they sell them off, they don't replace them because there's nothing left. And it's a pity, but take some advanced courses in business and it'll show you all about what goes on. And the same thing happened to Sears and Roebuck. There was a time you could buy anything from Sears and Roebuck. A house, a car, it didn't matter. They had it. And they had a catalog 3 inches thick. Not anymore. Just something to think about. KC1AIH.
Oh, Roger. Thank you for that, Miriam. Yeah, actually, I didn't know that Tandy bought out Lafayette. Got a couple old Lafayette receivers kicking around here. Probably need cut loose with one day because, well, I don't use them. They probably need to go. But yeah, I always thought Lafayette equipment was pretty cool. Let's take it up to Waylon, KC1HJN, for your thoughts on either one of the topics or however you'd like to take it. Go for it, Waylon.
KC1HJN. First off with Radio Shack, I have about 4 of their radios, and they're decent radios too. I have 2 handy-talkies and 2 mobile rigs. And the handy-talkies, I like those just fine, but the mobile rigs, they just don't seem like they're the best quality. I'm not sure if that was when they were going downhill or when those were made, but there still is a Radio Shack in North Windham, one of the franchise operations that Miriam was talking about, and they do stock some components and connectors and things that are Radio Shack brand, but it's not much, and it's usually twice as expensive as buying it off of Amazon or from, say, I don't know, Ham Radio Outlet or DX Engineering or somewhere like that. It's usually almost twice as expensive. So sometimes you can find good prices there, but rarely. And as far as what I want to get out of ham radio, I really got into it just to be able to speak to people all around the world and meet new people, and also have another line of communication if for some reason there was a big disaster. And I feel like my station's accomplishing that pretty well. It's a very simple station, but I've been able to talk to people over in Europe pretty regularly, and I run DMR as well, which using the internet that can link all over the world as well. And so, and as far as emergency communications, I think I most part have that. I have a Go box set up with some radios in it and things like that to facilitate emergency communications if I ever needed to go out in the field or ever needed to, if there's a family emergency, some sort of big crisis, I would be able to reach whoever was necessary to get that taken care of. Back to net, KC1HJN.
Sounds good. Waylon, real quick on emergency communication, one of the QST pubs I was looking at from days gone by, some guy said, basically for his field kit, he brought a mag mount and one of those space blankets, a Mylar mirrored space blanket, and I think he brought like a piece of metal or something like that along with it. And he slapped that piece of metal underneath the Mylar blanket, and he snapped the mag mount on top of the metal with the Mylar blanket sandwiched in between. And he indicated that that actually made a really great ground plane effectively for his mag mount antenna. And of course, it makes it very portable because those little Mylar blankets, when you get them, they're folded up really small, so you don't have to walk around with a big piece of sheet metal or anything like that. So I just kind of thought that was an interesting thought. So anyway, if in doubt, always keep a couple those Mylar blankets laying around. Let's take it out to Harbert, KC1PNY, for your thoughts. Out to you, Harbert.
This is KC1BMI. Yep, the reason I got into ham radio was because I like to listen. Not necessarily I like to talk, but I do like to listen to the radio and hear what's going on, and that's one of the reasons I got into it. And I like to build things and experiment with things. And not that I have a lot of electronics knowledge or radio knowledge, but just that I like to fiddle around with stuff like that, and that's one reason I do it. And as far as Radio Shack store, I used to like going there a lot and just looking to things and seeing things, and kind of miss that kind of store being around. And as far as Radio Shack in my home, I just kind of have a radio on my table here in the living room, and that's kind of my shack and for now, and that's what I use. I guess that's it. KC1BNY, back to net.
Sounds good. Thank you, Harbert. Yeah, I used to have like 4 or 5 of those battery a month cards. So I used to talk Mom and dropping me off at Radio Shack when she went to Laverdier's in Biddeford, at least every month, and I get my 4 or 5 free batteries. Didn't buy a whole lot, didn't have a whole lot of money, but got my free battery out of the deal. Shucks, times. Let's take it out to Tim, W1TGG, for your thoughts on the topics. Out to you, Tim.
Yeah, thanks for running the net, Paul. And as far as the topic about Radio Shack, I don't know. I almost think that it was inevitable with a name like Radio Shack, as foolish as maybe that sounds. But they can't. It's kind of hard to rebrand yourself, and things as far as radio goes. Kind of have taking a turn, you know, and all the stuff coming in from foreign countries and everything. So it's harder for a company like that to exist in today's world, I think, and obviously for obvious reasons. So I don't know that they could have even really helped it, you know. So, but with that, you know, as far as my shack, pretty happy with the way my shack's come in the past year since I've become a ham. And the reason I get into ham radio, I think, is mainly because I like to, you know, I like to rag chew and I like to talk to people. And you know, I'm really obviously I like you know, media. You know, graduated in digital media and all that and stuff. So it's kind of brings me back, you know, a little bit, you know, to the earlier days, you know, and I think about old time radio and everything, and how you know, radio used to be you know, the main mode of communication and all that and stuff. And you know, so for me it's more about that, you know, than it is of course, you know, I do take part in some of the, you know, the MCOM stuff, you know, and keep on at least kind of keeping my head in that and mix, you know, as far as knowing what's out there and what's going on a little bit, you know. But that's pretty much it. Again, thanks for running the net, Paul, and good to hear you back in there. Missed you last week. W1TGG, back over to you.
Yep, Roger. Thank you, Tim. Yep. Yeah, there was a whopper of a turnout last week. It was 20 some odd people or so, or awful close to 20. That was a whopper of a turnout. So yeah, that you did well. Thank you, Cole. I actually listened to the majority of that, but then I got called downstairs. So, but yeah, you did good. Thank you, Cole, for taking that. And yep, everybody did well in supporting Cole on that. So thank you for that. Let's take it to Ron, KC1AOT, for your thoughts on the topics out. You, Ron?
KC1AOT. How do you do, everybody? My story on ham radio is kind of complicated, but I got interested in it way back in the 50s, but I couldn't afford to buy any stuff, so I didn't take any tests. And then somebody from the church came along, and I think it was you, Paul, and wanted members to get licensed so we could talk to each other in case of emergency. And so I took the test and got licensed. Back in it. And I guess the main reason for being in it now is to just be ready, be able to, you know, respond to emergencies. Just there to be one. The Radio Shack. Yeah, I've shopped a lot at Radio Shack. I don't have much of a shack of my own. It's down here in the, quote, media room, where I have a lot of books, TV, computer, radio. It's the media room. Radio Shack, I thought that one in Wyndham was a privately owned one, though, come to think of it. I've been there a number of times. I don't guess I got much else to say. Back to that.
Sounds good. Thank you, Ron. Let's take it out to Roger in Falmouth, NK1I, for your thoughts. Out to you, Roger.
This is NK1I. Yeah, the Radio Shack scene, I think they kind of lost their way. Became a cell phone store, and that didn't work out for them. And the other thing is the complexity of building something today is just they couldn't stock enough items. I mean, they had a few resistors and they had a few of everything, but you can't stock, you know, like DigiKey or Mouser does, 20 million different part numbers in a store, and that's where it's gone to today. In order to build any significance, you need a lot more than a handful of 7400 chips, which is what they were carrying, or some 4000 series MOSFETs. So it got so complex. I think they just couldn't make go of it, and then they tried to become a stereo store and become a cell phone store, and became a memory. Um, but I got into radio. I mean, as a child, I was interested in shortwave listening, but being up here in Portland, Boston was a long ways away to take the test, and that just didn't happen. And you know, kids come along and families, and we kind of get sidetracked. And then finally, a few years ago, I met W1IMD on top of Mount Washington working on a repeater one day, and he said, well, come to the meeting. And why don't you get licensed? And that was quite a while ago, and I was just looking back at my log. When I really got serious was just over a year ago. My first log entry on HF is 1/19 of 2020, and I love it. So that's kind of my story about getting into it. I've always enjoyed technology. I worked with technology, you know, with the bank. That's all I did was technology projects, and I loved it. So then it was a natural. Now that I've got a little bit more time, and with COVID, I've got a lot more time, unfortunately. Anyway, those are my thoughts. KJ6, JBH, Net Control, and K1I.
Sounds good. Thank you, Roger. Yep. All right, let's take it down to Greg in Portland, KC1HML, for your thoughts on the topics. Up to you, Greg.
Yeah, Roger, KC1HML. Yeah, my recollections of Radio Shack go way back when I was a little kid too, and I think Battery of the Month Club was a big one, and I had some sort of a base station that my father got me in the mid-'60s that actually had a Morse CW keyer as a part of it for some reason. But watching them fade away over the years was kind of disappointing. Now we have HR distributors, at least in my line of work, that's where we go for our electronic parts locally. I wish I had a shack at home. I'm trying to put some stuff together with a better antenna and looking for a radio. And of course, I still got to get my general license. But that's my recollections about Radio Shack and what I'd love to have at home. I'll turn it back to that KC1HML.
Yeah, Roger. Thank you for that. Yeah, you know, HR distributor has been in there quite a few times. You know, and was it Waylon was talking about price of components up at that Video Shack was twice as much as everybody else. But then again, you know, if you go to HR distributor, you know, their price of their components is twice as much as everybody else online as well. Just can't compete with the online prices. You know, those places really don't. I guess they stock stuff, but they don't. You know, they stock it in mass. They, you know, stock all sorts of stuff. So, you know, a package of resistors is of no consequence to them. So, let's see here. Let's take it to this is KJ6JBH just in case. Let's take it out to Cole. KC1MSQ. Your thoughts on the topic? Out to you, Cole.
This is KC1MSQ. I don't have much on the Radio Shack topic, because I have never been there before. But, trying to say why I got into ham radio is, Dad had a GMRS repeater that we used, and he was searching around for a better way to communicate, because GMRS is in the higher range of frequencies, so it doesn't transmit as well. So he found ham radio, and he started studying for it, and I found him doing it, and I said, what are you doing? And he said, I'm studying for ham radio. You can get it if you want. And I said, okay, I'll study. So we studied hard for about 6 weeks, and then I went to the test, and I got my license. But that's all I have on the topic, so KC1MSQ, back to that.
Sounds good. Thank you, Cole. Now, bear in mind, GMRS works fine. It's just that it works fine for what it is. You know, it's like just like any frequency, whether it's 440, 222, or 144, or anything lower in frequency than that in our band. Each one has its benefits and its drawbacks. You know, as I'd said previously on this repeater. You know, as Clint Eastwood would say, you know, a man's got to know his limitations. So, anyway, you just need to know the limitation of each band that you're using. That's why we have so darn many of them. Is each one has its limitations, and the better we understand those, the more effective we can be in communicators, because we'll know what to jump on and when, as opposed to just beating our head up against the wall. Let's take it out to Rick out in Peaks Island, KC1 and ZD. For your thoughts, out to you, Rick.
KC1 and ZD. My love of electronics goes back to forever, kind of. I had an older brother who was indeed a ham radio operator. He went on to get all of the highest level of certification you could get, and he was pretty proficient with Morse code. But we loved electronics anyhow. I mean, I remember even as little kids, we were fascinated by my parents had what at the time was a portable radio, was in the 50s. But some kind of big box with tubes in it, but you could actually run it on a very expensive dry cells, expensive because they didn't last more than a few hours, and they did cost quite a bit. But once a year, we'd bring that to the beach, wear out the batteries in one afternoon, but it was pretty cool. It was all fun, and then we had electronics class in high school in Brunswick, which was unique, and that was always good. And then I also bought a Lafayette radio kit. At one point, a KP 320 shortwave receiver. The KP, of course, meaning kit form, and you could buy the same item all assembled. But that was great, and I'll never forget visiting my oldest brother, who at that point lived in Long Island, New York, and I talked him into taking me to Lafayette Radio with Dioxid, I think, was part of Long Island, and it was just such a thrill to go in there and see all of that stuff in real life, and you could, the smell of electronics alone was just endearing, tremendous. So it's been a long time, and so as a ham shortwave radio listener and ham listener, it's been a long time coming for me, for 50 years of listening. But at some point, I'm going to say that listening is like looking without touching. At some point, you need to transmit. You just gotta, go the whole route. And I don't really have any desire to contact everybody on the planet in an APT. And I mean, the high frequency stuff. I can live without that. But I'm really enjoying ham radio itself. The people are great. The electronics is great, and I do purchase certain items from Radio Shack in Wyndham. A guy named Neil is very kind about sending me items that, the shipping, instead of the $9.95 flat rate like you have at HRO, he'll send me a $3 connector for, another $1.50 or something, whatever the postage is. For him, that's what he charges me, so that part is good. But some of the items are pricey, and he does not get very involved with the world of ham radio, but I don't think HR does either, so but there are plenty of other places to do, so it's all been fun. I'm really enjoying the whole thing, including this Sunday evening talk net is great. It's fun. I feel like I'm hanging with my friends on Sunday nights, and thank you, Paul, for for the work you do to make this happen. And so we'll go back to net at this point in case you went in ZD.
Sounds good. Thank you, Rick. I'm under the impression, maybe it's an incorrect impression, but I'm under the impression that if you let HR distributors know that you're a ham in the area, I'm under the impression they do give you a little bit of a discount, but I could be mistaken on that. I'll have to. I've just never brought that up to them before, but somebody was telling me that. This is KJ6JBH. That was Rick. So let's take it out to Matt. Alpha Charlie 1 Kilo Oscar. Out to you, Matt, for your thoughts on the topic.
Thanks, Paul. AC1KO. I was just thinking of 30-something years ago when I started thinking about getting into ham radio, and life happened and got away from it. Just remembering going into Radio Shack
back then, because I grew up in the Bangor area, it was a different store, but you go in there and there'd be bins and bins and bins and bins of components, and they pretty much seem to have everything you need. And they have lost their way, as some folks talked about. And honestly, getting into this, I've had my ticket now for only a couple of weeks. It never even occurred to me to go there, which is unfortunate. Shame on me, maybe, but I just think of Radio Shack now. You walk in and you got a bunch of cell phones and radio control cars, and it's changed quite a bit. And then as far as my shack, I guess I've pretty much taken over the exercise room. What was, or still is, has a little bit of room. Get the elliptical slid over against the wall over there in my basement. But as far as why did I get into this, the world's changed a lot in the last year, and starting from working from home since last March, pretty much, and that feeling of isolation has been on my mind. Maybe get back into ham radio. I work in a technical field, so I have some of that knowledge, whatnot, and then then starting to read up a little bit on back when Hurricane Katrina happened and the tornadoes in Georgia last year, and how the ham radio community really comes together when everything else fails and takes care of the emergency communications and stuff like that. So that's interesting to me. Someday I get more experience on this. I may want to participate in that. And then Christmas happened, and for some reason somebody thought it would be a good idea to take down the AT&T hub in Nashville, that bombing that occurred. And my wife was trying to get a hold of her mother in South Carolina and couldn't get through on her cell phone because of that. And again, the hams are all working their thing in that area, and that pretty much put me over the edge. I did a pretty intensive multi-week effort to go through the exam process and get the ticket, and so now I'm really enjoying it. In fact, last Tuesday I got my dipole up in the air, and I've been messing around on HF. Got a few countries under my belt on 80 meter at night, and I actually talked to Bermuda and Wales this morning on 20 meter. So having a lot of fun. And
W1TGG link.
You still with us, Matt? It almost sounds like your timer on your rig cut you out, kind of mid-sentence. Is there something was that you that lifted, or was that your rig that lifted for you? Back out to you, Alpha Charlie 1 Kilo Oscar. AC1KO probably got long-winded and they cut me off. Yeah, I don't know. I just talking about why I got into it. Some of the emergency, if all else fails, this is what works, and all that. So probably should have reset there, and just part of my inexperience. Haven't been at this very long. So back to that. Thanks. AC1KO. Oh, I wouldn't worry too much about it, Matt. I've heard quite a few experienced people up on the repeater here. All of a sudden, time the thing out. Sometimes we all get a little involved in what we're talking about, and we tend to lose track of how quick 2 minutes go. So don't worry about the inexperience. Don't worry about it. It just happens. It'll happen to all of us eventually, unless we've got to sit there or got a clock sitting there, or for that matter, have the timeout timer set on the radio. So either way, we'll don't worry about it. Let's see here. Bill in Wyndham is listening. Let's take it to Nick and Gorham, KC1 MSR, for anything you may have on the topics out to you, Nick.
This is KC1 MSR. Well, Cole stole my thunder, so I have nothing to talk about now. He gave it all away, but I was kind of working with GMRS stuff, trying to go to repeater.
mainly looking to establish comms within a hunting party we had. And, then we went through that, kind of came across ham radio, and noticed it had a lot more capability. Of course, two problems with a hunting party. Number one, everybody at the party would need to be licensed, which isn't going to happen with my crew. Number two, where we go is so remote, there's really not much repeaters around. So anyway, that's kind of what got me on the path. And once I got into it, just started to learn about all the different directions you could go. I'm kind of a techie, so I enjoy the technology, and it's something fun to do with calls. So I'm just kind of stumbling along and discovering the ins and outs of ham radio at this point. KC1, MSR, back to that. Sounds good. Thank you, Nick. Let's take it up to Neil in Paris, NV9D, for your thoughts on the topic. Out to you, Neil.
This is November Bravo 9 Delta, Neil and Paris. As far as Shack, I mean, we're not exactly up here in the embassy suites, and I think Motel 6 would be a palace in comparison, and that's probably because that's all we can afford. But for us, amateur radio is very much so about survival. We're living out here on the edge, on the frontier. So yeah, it's absolutely a wonderful place. A lot of great people, and we're very thankful for the privilege of joining the net. Thanks for having us on the net. And back to that NB90.
Sounds good. Thank you, Neil. All right, so we've got Alan's listening. Another gentleman's listening, W2BAN. And we have KC1OIZ listening. So let's take it to Ben in Buxton, KC1HBL, for your thoughts on the topic.
Good evening, Paul, and good evening to everyone on the net. Yeah, Radio Shack. I have one of their scanners. It's been around here for quite some time, so it's a decent company back in the day. And as far as personal Radio Shacks, I guess it is where you make it. I was in the basement for a while. I've moved this out to the garage, so we're in the garage at the moment. You could probably call your vehicle a Radio Shack, and any other place you keep radios. And as far as getting interested in ham radio, I guess it was just a kind of a prepper / emergency preparedness kind of thing, just another form of communication. So that's about it, Paul. Thanks for running the net, and we'll send it back over to you. KC1HBL.
Sounds good. Thank you, Ben. This is KJ6JBH. Name here is Paul with the Newcomers Roundtable Net. We're currently at the bottom of the lineup. If anyone else would like to jump into the net before we take it back to the top of the list for the last go-round, call sign, phonetically please. Name and location. Please come now.
Kilo, Charlie, 1, Juliet, Mike Hotel, KC1, GMH, Mobile, Gray.
All right, sounds good. Brad, it sounds like you're the only one trying to come in here, so I would assume you kind of know what we're talking about a little bit. Basically, we had talked about the origin of the Radio Shack, but also, and the kind of speaking a little bit about, kind of as ham operators, what was it that, or what is it that we want to get, what do we want to get out of ham radio, and are we on track, or do we just want to do community service, EM comm, prepping, meeting new people, shooting the breeze on the radio with people, talking to people all over the world, meeting new people, basically stuff like that. So is what we're doing going to meet our goal? But also we were talking about Radio Shack. The Radio Shack kind of came up in that Google search and talked about basically how they lost their business focus, through their acquisitions and stuff, and how initially Radio Shack was set up by two brothers in 1921 or 23 as a supply house for radio parts for amateurs and for shipborne radio. So through time, their initial goal was diluted and changed, and of course they're pretty much for the most part gone now. So we're just kind of talking about reminiscing a little bit about Radio Shack, the store as well. So yep, if you'd like to jump in and speak on those topics, that'd be great. Back to you, Brad.
Yeah, sure thing. Radio Shack, that's an interesting one. I met I hired a fellow that used to run or be a manager at a Radio Shack when I was working for a larger corporation that manages customers' IT systems, essentially. Won't go into names there. But I hired him, and he had experience in Radio Shack. He'd been there, I want to say in the late 70s, early 80s, or something like that. And he said that he had pretty much practically become licensed ham radio operator. Like some of the stuff he's talking about, he had to be able to identify resistors and capacitors and all that stuff just by looking at them. And of course, I had to ask him, why didn't you ever get your license? And he was like, yeah, I wasn't really interested. I did what I needed to do for work, and it's always interesting stuff, but he never thought about getting his ticket, which is interesting to me. Growing up, of course, I'm 41 now, so I want to say back in the 80s, 88, 89, remember going there and perusing, especially as I got older. My folks would go to the grocery store just down the little mini mall, and I'd hang out with my brother in the Radio Shack just checking out the little race cars, electronics kits and stuff. We eventually bought our first computer from there, the Tandy 1000 HX. And I gotta tell you, we don't have it anymore. Looking around on eBay, they're selling them for $800. Some of them upgraded to the VIC-20 processor on them and compact flash hard drives. Really interesting. I just want the original one, like I had as a kid. And we got the Tandy 1000. Sorry about that. The radio's barking at me. Anyways, I think I'm still transmitting. We got our 486 DX2. I remember my dad going back and barking at them because they forgot to put the Matco processor he paid for in there. I guess it was a good chunk of change, go from 33 to make 66 megahertz. Quick break. As for why I got on the ham radio, it was about 2017, I think. We had a big storm in October. Knocked out the power and the internet and cell phone service, and I've been thinking about radio and stuff. I've been a firefighter from 92 to 2002 and was familiar with radios and repeaters and whatnot. And decided I wanted to give it a go. I have communications with my folks, my family, my parents, namely my brother. So far I've got my brother to get signed up. I'm still working on my dad. But we'll have some communications and then join the club, the Royal Society of Southern Maine, and fell in head first into all the different rabbit holes that you can go. And it's been fascinating. It really has been. And I think I ramble on for a while, so I'll let you go. KC1JMH, back to net.
Yep. Sounds good. Thank you, Brad. And what was it, Matt? There you go, right there. You know, Brad hit his own timeout timer. So you're not alone. Don't worry about it. I'm pretty sure I've done it too. Actually, I don't have a timeout timer set, so the alligator bites me on the repeater. It's the way it goes sometimes. This is KJ6JBH. You know, one thing nobody mentioned about Radio Shack is they had a tube tester out back. You know, when I was a kid, you know, we used to go to the dump right there in Dayton, and there was just an open landfill. And as you know, Dad would back in his Toyota pickup truck, a little brown one, and we'd be throwing the trash over the side. And every time the trash bag went in the air, I'm scanning the dump pile, and I'd see a radio or TV or something. And of course, you know, when I was early teens, I didn't worry too much about safety. So I'd Dad, I'll be back, and I'd go right over the side of the heap, and I'd come back, you know, pawing back up on top of that big trash mound with my newfound treasure. Oh, I used to drive Mom nuts, but yeah, I used to pluck the tubes out of that. Next trip to Radio Shack, you know, I'd cash in my battery month card, and I'd go hit their tube tester, and I'd check all the tubes. Didn't know what I was going to do with the tubes, but it didn't matter. If I was going to save them, they had to be good. So man, I kind of wish I had that Radio Shack tube tester now. This is KJ6JBH. We're going to take it back to the top of the list and go through another sweep here for anything at all. Any questions, comments, concerns, things that you've seen that are cool, things that you've seen that are stupid, seen, heard, anything at all, ham radio related. Let's keep it ham radio related. Let's stay out of politics and all that other hooey. Well, let's take it up to Eric, N1RXR for anything at all. Up to you, Eric.
N1RXR. No, Paul, back to that.
My dog, if everybody does that, it's going to be a quick trip through the lineup. Let's take it out to Miriam, KC1, AIH for anything at all. Out to you, Miriam.
Oh, KC1 AIH. Well, there's an old saying, happy wife, happy life. So the thing is with ham radio, this has been a man's world for so long. There are a few of us, we women in it, but statistically, very few. However, there are more and more getting interested in it. I happen to be one of them. My ex was not a ham. But something that a couple can do together. So by all means, if you've got a partner, get him, her, or them to get their licenses and get them interested in the hobby. Because there's so many different things we can do. This has been mentioned by so many other people. You want to do DMR, you can do it. You want to do HF, you can do it. You want to do moonshots, you can do it. Whatever it takes. But by all means, encourage your female friends to join up. Then they can listen to me. The most hard-headed old cow you know, KC1AIH.
Sounds good. Thank you, Miriam. Yeah, I think as a person gets older, they become a little bit more set in their ways. I'm not quite concrete yet, but I'm getting there. Kind of feeling like a bucket of concrete sometimes. Let's take it out to Waylon, KC1HJN for anything at all. Out to you, Waylon.
This is KC1HJN. I don't really have anything to add here. Thanks as always for running the net, Paul. You always do a good job doing it. And back to net, KC1HJN.
Thank you, Waylon. Let's take it out to Harbert, KC1BNY for anything at all. Out to you, Harbert.
KC1BNY. Don't really have anything else. Thanks for doing the net. It was a good topic, very interesting to hear everybody's ideas and thoughts on radio and ham shacks and Radio Shack. And I guess that's it. KC1BNY. Have a good week.
Sounds good. Thank you, Harbert. Hey, you stay warm up there. I know it's kind of a challenge down here, and I think it's a couple degrees cooler up your way than it is down here by Kennybunk. So stay warm, stay warm. It's becoming a challenge. Let's take it out to Tim, W1TGG, for anything at all. Out to you, Tim.
Yeah, I really don't have much else to add except for I did want to add that I don't know if some of you might have known him, but John KC1NQW, he was a relatively new ham. He just got his license this past summer. I believe, Paul, you might have met him at one of the nerds meetup in Kennybunk. He's a nice gentleman. I happened to meet him on the air, and BJ as well knows him. They used to work together, and yeah, he passed away on January 1st. I assume I'm assuming of a heart attack, because when I had met him, he had mentioned that he had recently had some heart trouble in the past year. So unfortunately, he passed away on the first, 56 years old. So with that, I don't know if, like I said, I didn't know if any of you might have known him. If you did, he had passed away. So with that, Paul, somber kind of announcement. I'll pass it back over to you. W1TGG.
Well, good golly, Tim. I kind of hate to hear people kicking the bucket at that age. I mean, I'm a little older than that. It's like, man, it doesn't really give you a warm fuzzy there when when people younger than you are kicking the bucket. Good golly. So let's take it out to Ron, a slightly older gentleman than 56. Slightly older, just slightly. Take it out to Ron, KC1AOT, for anything at all. Ron.
Hey, a day or two. Yeah, he was talking about dumps. Dumps were one of my favorite places, I think. Like I said, back in the 50s I got started. The way I got started was a bunch of us guys who hung out together. They were in grammar school. And we went to the town dump. And these were the days when TV was just starting to be popular. So people were buying up TVs and throwing away their radios. And the dump was full of radios, besides the rats and stuff. So I prowled around and found a nice big console radio and took it home. I don't remember how I got it home. It was a big one. But it did. And heck, I plugged it in and it worked. But I took it all apart anyway. So it was a good radio and shortwave band and a broadcast band. I could hear all kinds of interesting stuff. And I just got me hooked right there. And the rest, as they say, is history. And it's 17 degrees here, by the way. Back to that.
Sounds good. Yeah, thanks, Ron. Yeah, I had to chuckle. You said, yeah, it worked pretty good, but I had to take it apart anyway. It's like, man, I can relate. Yeah, and in my head, I said, man, and they don't build them like that anymore, and it's probably a good thing. I don't know if my old back could handle it, hoisting something like that around anymore. Let's take it out to Roger in Falmouth, NK1I, for anything at all. Out to you, Roger.
This is NK1I. Yes, I agree with you. The waste transfer station is definitely a place to go visit at least once on the weekend, where you find a lot of good stuff. In fact, that's where my equipment rack came from a few weeks ago. Not a whole lot going on. Rick, I did want to catch up with you on those inverters if they didn't end up in the landfill. I would have some interest in one or more of them to tinker with. That's about all I got tonight, Paul. KJ6, JBH, Net Control, and K1I.
Sounds good. Thank you, Roger. See here, let's take it to Greg in Portland. KC1HML, for anything at all. Out to you, Greg.
KC1JMH Link.
One more time to KC1HML, Greg in Portland. your turn if you're still around. Out to you, Greg. Yep, that's all right. Greg stepped away, and that's an okay thing. Let's take it out to Cole and Gorham. KC1 MSQ for anything at all. Out to you, Cole.
This is KC1MSQ Cole. I don't have much to add. Thanks for running the net, Paul, and yeah, that's it. Alright, KC1MSQ, 7-3, back to one.
Sounds good, sounds good. Thank you, Cole. See here, let's take it out to Rick in Peaks Island, KC1 NZD for anything at all. Out to you, Rick.
KC1NZD, I think it's Ron. Yes, I have those inverters. No problem getting them to you, but if you try to email me, it won't work because I don't do the computer anymore because now that I'm blind, it's too complicated. But we can connect. You could always contact Steve, for example. If you know Steve, W1TGG, he and I are good buddies from forever ago, and we're always in touch, and he could tell you how to connect with me, or you could leave him a phone number, which, I'll connect with you one way or another. No problem. They're yours. And I did want to comment, one of the things that I like about ham radio, that after you spend all those big bucks for good equipment, the beauty is there's no fees like app fees or cable TV fees or cell phone fees. It's just there, so you can keep your equipment for years and years and use it or not use it, and there's no fee. So eventually, the price for the equipment is, gets, as I see it, cheaper and cheaper over the years because it probably will last forever, and it's good. It's one of those things that you can not use it for a long time and then pick it up and go right back to it, or some people use it every day. Either way, it's your choice. It's all good. And thank you again, Paul, for the net this evening, KC1NZD.
Sounds good, sounds good. Thank you, Rick. Let's take it out to Matt, Alpha Charlie 1 Kilo Oscar for anything at all. Out to you, Matt.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. EC1KL. Yeah, I like Rick's comment there about the no fees thing. It's kind of a feeling of freedom. So I guess my thought is, being new to this, I'm still very much in the honeymoon phase. I like the 2 meter, and it's very reliable, and pretty much, if somebody's near the radio, you can reach them. And then getting into HF over this week, I had no idea because I kind of got into it. I'm gonna reset just to make sure. There we go. I had no idea that within a week of getting my dipole up in the air, I'd be hitting 7 countries. I mean, and it's killing me because I got to get some sleep, man. I'm up past midnight on 80 meters, and then I'm up early on 20. And I had no idea I'd be talking to Wales and Bermuda and the West Coast, U.S. and Bulgaria and all that stuff within a short period of time. No amplifier, just a dipole up there, end-fed dipole and a 100 watts. So it's pretty good. I'm having a lot of fun and looking forward to more of it. Thank you very much. Back to Matt, PC1KO.
Sounds good, sounds good. Thank you, Matt. Let's see here. We got Bill and Wyndham listening. Then we have Nick and Gorham, KC1 MSR for anything at all. Out to you, Nick.
KC1 MSR. Nothing here. So next Paul. Back to Matt.
Sounds good, sounds good. Thank you. Let's see here. Let's take it out to Neil in Paris and B9D for anything at all. Out to you, Neil.
That's November Bravo 9 Delta, Neil and Pat. I had a pretty eventful day today. It was just woke up and it was cold, but it had plenty of solar game. So we just stayed in our shack and where it was warm and hopeful that the batteries were charging. So towards in the afternoon, we finally decided to break the cold. So I get out there and I walked by my solar panels and I walked right by them and I'm like, that didn't really seem right. And I had to take a second glance and the wind had turned our whole panels. They were pointing in the opposite direction that they should have, just rotated them on the pole there. So yeah, we'll hopefully get some solar gains over the next week moving forward. And thanks for running the net back to NB9D.
Oh, yeah, Roger, Rogers. Yeah, sounds like you need to anchor that thing a little bit. Yeah, having the wind turn them like that is not a real good way to get those batteries charged up in any effective amount of time. Let's see here. That was where am I? That was Neil. See, Alan's listening. The other gentleman's listening. Then we have Kevin listening. So let's take it to Ben Buxton, KC1 HBL for anything at all. How'd you, Ben?
Yeah, nothing further here, Paul. Thank you as always for running the net. You're doing a great job. We'll send it back over to you. 73, everyone. KC1 HBL.
Roger, Ben. Yep, running the net's an easy thing, actually. It's actually an easy thing. You just have to get over, the fear of saying something dumb. It's like I say stuff dumb all the time, and hey, I'm okay with it. So, we're running the net's no big thing, and I can tell anybody else, running the net's not a big thing. People really should get some exposure running the net. Just because. But anyway, let's take it down to Brad. And, Brad was mobile in gray, but I doubt he's in gray anymore. But let's take it to Brad nonetheless. Out to you, Brad. KC1 JMH for anything at all.
Yep, Route 35 Buxton right now, I believe. KC1 JMH. Not much further. Next weekend is Winter Field Day. If anyone's interested in participating or even just listening, if you are a member of the Wireless Society of Southern Maine or would like to contribute to our score, reach out to me and help you. I'll get the newsletter that has the details to you. Today, I've got some help from my brother. He's the electronics nerd in the family. He helped me set up the MicroBitX, and today he's helping me wire up some additional stuff to my battery box. So I'm excited to play with that some more. Not much further to add, so I'll let you guys go. KC1 JMH, back to that.
Yep, Roger. Well, thank you for that, Brad. Yeah, I'm gonna play with my MicroBitX. Actually, it's the BitX 40 or whatever that is, a little 40 meter BitX. So I play with mine one of these days, but it's always time. All right, so we're at the bottom of the second go round. If anybody else would like to jump in before we close, here's your shot. So if you'd like to throw out your call letters and let me know who you are, and let me know now.
KC1JMH link.
All right, so at this time, we'll go ahead and conclude the Newcomers Roundtable Net for this evening. Certainly like to thank George, W1QUI. Thank you, George, for allowing us to use your repeater for the net. Your repeater works great, and we do appreciate what you do to keep the repeater on the air. So we can certainly use it. So thank you for that, George. All right, so I'd like to say this is KJ6JBH. I'd like to wish everyone a pleasant evening. Stay warm, stay healthy, and I will now return this frequency to